Yo, yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Thizzle, and today I'm going to be talking about the 2011 film, The Grey, starring Liam Neeson, and it's written and directed by Joe Carnahan, who also did one of my favorite films, Smokin' Aces. So ain't nothing to it but to do it. Right off the bat, I know a lot of people are very divided with the ending. In fact, I would say a lot of people hate the ending. I don't hate the ending. I actually think it's okay. I'm not mad at it. I do wish that we got to see a little bit more after. I'll get to it later on in the review, but I know that's probably one of the first thoughts people are thinking with this fucking movie are like, yo, I don't love the ending. But long story short, I do like this movie. I think Liam Neeson puts in a really good performance as a guy named Otway. And in the beginning of the film, his character is suicidal. He's thinking second thoughts. I believe his wife had just died. And I believe what snaps him out of it is the sound of a wolf whistle. Some key elements might be a little bit fuzzy for me because it's been quite a while since I've seen it. But some scenes do stand out to me for sure. I will say the sequence with the plane crash is terrifying. I think it's one of the better depictions of an actual plane crash. And maybe it's not extremely realistic to the bone. Of course, things are going to get played up for film and entertainment, but I would be terrified to be one of the characters going through this sequence for sure. And a lot of them do get killed. There's only about 6 or 7 of them or 5 of them that manage to survive, and the ones that do live through that plane crash now have to deal with these ravenous packs of wolves that are hunting them through the night. I am a fan of the wolf scenes when they do pop out. I'm a sucker for shots where eyes are glowing in the dark, and this movie has one of my favorite executions of that. It's in the trailer, but I remember watching this in the theater. I was younger, but I caught this in the theater, and that scene when it popped up, I was terrified. I was like, yo, it was so creepy how it was shot, the atmosphere, the mood of it. And this is done, obviously, to show that the characters, our crew that we're following, are not alone. Just the way that the eyes are popping up here and there, I think it was very well done. And I do wish that they didn't show that in the trailer. Now, we do have a very solid supporting cast. I'm a fan of Frank Grillo. I think he's a really solid, underrated actor. He does well in action and thriller type flicks, so I thought he blended in very well here. And he is a Joe Carnahan regular. I like Joe Anderson, I like Dallas Roberts, I like Dermot Mulroney, who I remember not really being one of the tougher guys, just being one of the fellas that are going through the motion in this very fucked up situation. Now, for anybody that might get thrown off by the F-bombs in this movie, that's just traditional Joe Carnahan. That's almost literally every movie that he's ever done, minus A-Team, I believe. He always manages to sprinkle at least 100 F-bombs in his movies, and for the most part, that's not really a big nitpick for me. I think the F-bombs do work well in here, and I love how he uses them in Smokin' Aces. And he also did Narc with Ray Liotta and Jason Patric, which I think is a fantastic film. And I love how the F-bombs are used in that movie as well. So for anybody that gets thrown off by the F-bombs, I understand. There's about like 200 or 180 in here or so. But I think that it's used very well because it captures the panic that these characters are going through. I love the cinematography, the use of the snow and the ice, and the overall setting of this Alaskan area that they're in. After the plane crash, we start seeing our characters in peril as they're trying to make their way back to civilization. So we do get a couple sequences that are a bit painful to watch where our characters are trying to climb a tree or a branch and they end up snapping their leg. And the wolf attacks, when they do pop off, I think they're done pretty well. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest CGI guy, so when it does appear here and there, it is a bit jarring and it can throw me off. But I do think how ferocious the attacks are pretty brutal. I won't spoil which character it is, but there is a really sad scene where one of our guys is climbing up a tree, trying to escape, I believe, and then he falls all the way down, and he transitions into this daydream or this gaze where he starts seeing his family, and it's really lighthearted and sweet, but deep down we know this character's in deep trouble. And the next shot are the wolves tearing him apart and fucking him up. And that part I remember is probably the saddest moment for me in the film. And I just remember that leaving the biggest impact because I remember liking that character a lot. This is kind of a spoiler here, but the last time we see Frank Grillo's character, who I really enjoyed, he's slumped up against a log. He's injured and he's telling the fellas to go on without him. And they eventually do. And the last shot we see him, he's just sitting there, he's smiling. And from what I remember, we can kind of hear like the wolves closing in. But still, we don't see what happens to his character. We don't see a body. And I remember that being one of my biggest nitpicks of the film. I'm like, yo, I got to see at least what happens to Frank Grillo. And this is where I lead with the ending that a lot of people hate. Spoilers from now on. So Liam Neeson is pretty much the last man standing. It's a one-on-one showdown, or what we're led to believe is about to pop off. I always thought this was badass. He breaks like these little mini glass bottles. He tapes them around his knuckles, and he's about to throw down. Then the movie cuts to black, and the end credits roll. And I remember in the theater, people in the theater physically like, oh, man, what the fuck? No. I remember people literally being like, no, like, really? Like, so I can understand why people hate the ending. I felt it in the theater with the other people, but I thought it was pretty cool because if you wait for a second, if you stay for a little bit, there's a final end credit and you see Liam Neeson laying on the wolf, and it looks like they're both messed up. They both took numbers on each other. And it's pretty much safe to assume that Liam Neeson's character does die because he's either going to die of all this frostbite or all these diseases he can catch while he's deep into this Alaskan wilderness and how cold the temperature is. But I don't hate the ending. I think it's okay. I don't love the ending, but I don't hate it either. The Gray. I think it's a tad bit underrated. Now, I can understand why people hate it or don't really rock with the movie, but I would say I like the movie overall. Liam Neeson does a great job. The wolf attacks are pretty brutal. The plane crash sequence always left an impact on me. And the supporting characters I did enjoy. I'm going to give The Gray an 8 out of 10. And that's it, y'all. It's your boy Fro. What do you think about this movie? Do you like it like I do? Do you hate it? Do you loathe this movie? Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. In the meantime, between time, I appreciate y'all. And I'm on to the next review.